alongside yourself. It is the most positive part of this picture right here, the unit, as it is Royal Rumble Sunday, American Dream.
Little Kevin Nash going on there with the unit.
Oh, man. Kind of like in Hardball from 2001 with Keanu Reeves. When the kids got together on there. And they were talking about, we going to the ship, what? We going to the ship.
Hell to the no, no. Hell no, to the no.
For real, we don't know how to act. Yeah, I'm pointing out facts. If I point a finger, that's point of attack. Good point, who's next? Flag on the plate, now I'm causing them death. We bet on ourselves, so what you expect? A die-hard fan, never live with regret. Yes, sir. Go to my neck. Burgundy flex. Who wants the smoke? We bringing it home. Be my guest. Look how we step. Who we got next? Step on the right, step on the left. Who do we rep? Commanders. Where's my soldiers? Right side. Commanders. Where's my soldiers? Left side. Commanders. Where's my soldiers? Watch the middle. Commanders. Where's my soldiers? High off the way that this sound, they turn up as soon as they feet the ground. I am not playing around. I hit them, I bet that they feeling me now.
Welcome, one and all across the nation and around the world. I welcome you all to episode 44 of the Commanders Gridiron Report here on the 1st of February, 2025. I am your host, the sunglass wearing D Willy, up here with the championship belt, and we got some things to talk about, mainly a molly-whopping of the Commanders from this past Sunday afternoon. But I have a very special guest, the man, the myth, the legend himself. He has been on this show multiple times and is now about to make it yet another appearance. A man who has a picture with this belt right here that I've got on my shoulder and is responsible for some awesome photos and footage that we will be sharing throughout this broadcast. Give it up for the man, the myth, the legend behind the Legacy Maker Sports Network, the man, the myth, the legend behind Bowie TV Sports. Give it up for Darrell Owens, the first of his name.
First of his name. I love it. You know I'm a Game of Thrones fan. He knew.
Yes. He had to bring it up, brother. Had to bring it up. Even had to give you the sunglasses action for that introduction, because we got some great things to talk about, man. It was a cool season. I mean, I had to take the shades on just to shield myself from the brightness of how great this season was. This team tripled their wins from the season before. 4-13, finished 12-5. You know, of course, we got some things we don't want to talk about today from this past week, but you got to talk about the rough stuff to get to the good stuff. And speaking of the good stuff, we got some great comments out here in the section. Let's effing go, says Mickey Delaney, ready to rock and roll out there on YouTube, as well as my man, Eagles fan around here in the 804 area, Dante Hill, saying fly, Eagles, fly. Let's go. Along with what makes our show international, Sick Diggy all the way from Norway, saying what's good, everybody. And Dante says, what's up, guys? Sick and Mickey out here. As we've got Darrell with us here. to discuss Washington Commanders football for this past season. And yes, I have the championship on my shoulder. It will not be here for the entire hour of this show, so I'm not holding 10 pounds of gold.
I'm about to say you got to protect that shoulder.
So, hey, you know from this picture right here, you know exactly how heavy this unit is because you got to have your moment with the belt.
Yeah,
Tell them now that you are on the air on Sertoba Media airwaves. How was it holding this belt right here?
Hey, man, it's a beautiful piece of artwork. We're going to throw that out there first. Every bit of greatness. And I'm going to tell you what, man, like the authenticity of it, just beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful title belt. So, hey, man, it was an honor to finally get a chance to hold Big Red.
It was an honor for you to hold it, my man. I mean, so much has happened, and you got, the great photo of myself and Paul Kelly out there in the crowd from that game. This was the Hail Mary game back in week 8, back in that time where the Commanders' season was kind of a roller coaster at that point, and this was a game that actually sent the downfall for the Bears for the rest of the year, pretty much on a losing streak until the final game of the year for the Chicago Bears. It was pretty ugly. But it all started with that Hail Mary for them, but also a spark for the remainder of the year came out of that Hail Mary game. I believe, looking at it before we truly get started with the show, I saw the great potential in that Monday night game against the Cincinnati Bengals when they were in Cincinnati. And they beat Joe Burrow at home, and they were 1-1 at that point, came back and won that game late. And that's when you started to see the greatness of Jaden Daniels. And to be honest, it was because of that Monday Night Football game why we got tickets to go see that Bears game and why everything worked out the way that it did. So to be on the 10-yard line that close, I mean, you saw how close we were. We were pretty motherfucking
He had a really good season, man. That's a really good season, that bad boy.
And it was the time to get them because now after a season like this, I think those tickets are going to be twice the price next year. And I'm not paying those.
That's going to be crazy.
Expensive enough. But for what it is, man, it was one great season. But before we get to the highlights of the year, we got to talk about what was from this past week. And that in the 1st and 10 with this past game that we saw.
They are the Washington Commanders. New name, new marks, new uniform.
Soldiers, are we ready for Operation Burgundy?
Here in the 1st and 10, Philly absolutely mollywops the Commanders 55-23 in this past Sunday's NFC Championship game that was at 3 o'clock in Philadelphia. Darrell, you were there. You literally had front row seats, better than the seats than we had for that Hail Mary game because you're taking pictures out there. But, looking at this game and how it was the closest it was 14-12 in the second quarter. And then all of a sudden the Eagles score. It's 20-12 and they go up 27-12. And then from that point, it was a struggle for the rest of the game. And in the second half, the Eagles ran away with it. Tell our viewers out here, just from behind the lens and your angle from it being out there on the field, what transpired in your eyes?
Yeah, I think, one, when you look at how this team played all season, it's tough to see them lose this game this way because this is not who this team has been all year. So that's the one thing I want to be able to say out loud to the audience, Brand. And it's like, never at any point I'd have thought that this game would have went this way, especially after the first 2 matchups, because that first one in Philly was a tight game where Washington had the lead. They had the lead in that one, and it just obviously didn't work out the way they wanted to in that one. And Saquon Barkley, who for whatever reason averages 2 touchdowns a game against Washington. If you're a betting person, then make sure you do that.
And bet for 150 yards rushing, it seems like.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff. So that, and then in the second one, that comeback, the energy there was amazing. And I said to myself, okay, this game's going to be tight. Obviously, I didn't think it would be like this. Did I think the Eagles could win maybe by multiple touchdowns? Potentially, but not like this. But I think what happened was once the De'Ami Brown fumble, to me, you could tell that the energy changed. And even though they were kind of still in it after that, it just didn't initially. That was what made everything changed. Now, they only had that many turnovers in one other game, and that was against the Eagles in the game that they won against Philly. They had 5 in that one. They had 4 in this one. And that's the first time that, they really made that many turnovers in the season other than that Philly game. So seeing them make those mistakes in the biggest moment, it sucked. But what I will say, if you are a Commanders fan, you got a lot to be happy about because this team is ready to take the next step. Adam Peters at GM is the truth and nothing but the truth. The guy knows how to scout. If you go back and look at all of those great 49ers teams that they've had here in the last, couple of years, he was the one that drafted all those late picks, the Purdy's and so on and so on. He has an eye for talent. And what did you see in this draft with Washington? Well, let's see. Let's get a couple of starters in there. Let's go get a Brandon Coleman. Let's go get a starting left tackle that could be the guy for the next 10, 15 years. Oh, let's go get Mikey Sarenstill. Let's go get a cornerback who's just come out here rookie year. He looks short. You say, he's a short guy, handles business. Let's go get the future quarterback for the next 10 to 15 years in Jaden Daniels. They kept getting, they kept grabbing people like Luke McCaffrey. I can go on and on. You're in good shape. It sucks now. It's going to be better later.
And what they did with the defense with Louvu and bringing in Bobby Wagner and, all the older talent, the great leaders, Zach Ertz, Eckler, even though they're older and they don't have much mileage left to go, for the next year or two, but they definitely made an impact. Eckler, when he wasn't hurt, a great receiving back. That's what he's been known for during his time with the Chargers, which is something that Brian Robinson Jr. is not known for, being a good receiving back. Zach Ertz, played a lot less percentage-wise, but when he was out there, they made the best of what they were able to get out of Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz looked like he did back in the Philly days, just, of course, not as much time out on the field. He didn't play as many snaps, but had a big impact. Definitely, I believe, helped the elevation of Ben Sinnott a little bit, who's a rookie, and then you got Bates over there as well. I still feel like they need another good true tight end. I don't think that the two of them are going to be able to play at the level that Zach Ertz did when he was in Philly during those great years. They're going to have to make a move there, and we could talk more about that later in the show. But as far as what they were able to get out of this team, one thing that I did find pretty hilarious was when Louvu kept jumping off sides when that one play. And they were, how many warnings are you going to get, bro? Like, there was a lot of warnings.
when the referee said, we're going to reward the team with points, I said, what? I said, you can do that? Because I never heard. I didn't know you could do it. Yeah. I had no clue you could do it. But when he said it, the fans went crazy. And I was just like, wait a minute. He just said they were just going to give him a touchdown. And I ain't gonna lie to you, as a kid, I always wondered, like, what happens if you get to the 1 inch yard line and it's like, a penalty? And as growing up, all they did was just move the ball a little bit. They never said, oh, here's a touchdown. But it was like, nah, you're gonna get this touchdown. I was like, Louvu, he's a great linebacker, and you got him for another year, so that's a good deal. He's gonna be a great piece, heading into next season. And he had me cracking up, man. But that's how he plays, man. He is. If you want somebody who wants to be the heart of your defense, Louvu's that type of guy. Even though Bobby Wagner's the quiet leader, he's that leader on your team.
Mm-hmm. And Louvu, is happy going from the Panthers from where he was in that situation, coming on over, and you bring over people who have, even though he's coming from college, Sarenstill, who you talked about, old Mikey, he comes straight from a national championship caliber team, playing with, under Coach Harbaugh, great team leadership that he had over there on that defense, and it carried over where I wouldn't say as much of an impact as JD made for the offense, but you could have an argument that Sarenstill had a good impact as far as rookie wise, and deserves to be in the conversation for at least top 5 to top 10 impactful rookies from this past year in the NFL. And he made an impact on the defense, in my opinion. Of course, without the veteran leadership from Wagner and Louvu and those who came aboard from free agency, you wouldn't have had that impact maybe out of him as that rookie spot. But I feel like everybody came together as a good glue, a good gel, a great unit. And you saw that especially from that game we were just talking about earlier on upward. And speaking about guys out there that make glue to make things go around, one out there for Legacy Maker and our guy, Tyrone Montgomery Jr.'s out here.
Oh, Ty hype right now. Come on now, Ty. Let's get it, David.
He's hype. And I'm hyped because I'm seeing my man with hair out there in the picture. That's what Hey, shout out.
Got the wine glass in there. You ready for business?
He is.
Yeah, Papa Bear.
007.
Papa Bear right there. And that's
So,
a new
yeah,
dad right there. New dad.
Congrats to him and another Eagles fan, Mike Bish out there, as well. Both
Oh,
of
yeah,
them,
yeah.
having babies here lately. So it's 2025 starting off big when it comes to generations.
Yeah.
Mickey Delaney also out there. We got Awesomeness Sports out here for the first time. Squishy Grasshoppers are going to lose in the Super Bowl.
Squishy Grasshoppers. That's a name for them. I like that.
I love it. And they're going back and forth.
That's great.
And apparently, Awesomeness Sports will be back on YouTube in the near future. Well, I'll have to, subscribe to you as well there, Awesomeness, and check out what awesomeness you have, because this is Sartoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
There it is.
Awesomeness Sports.
You got Awesomeness Sports.
That button. I'm going to click that button for it.
Sartoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
I can see the awesomeness just starting to collide.
We're gonna have to have an awesomeness collaboration or something.
There it is.
We'll talk some sports in an awesomeness type of way. But Dante, big Eagles fan, said that second game didn't count. Hurts was out.
Nah.
Well, he started the game.
No, we're not saying that. No, you can't say that. So my thing about that, Drew, is, and I heard a lot of Eagles fans say that, yes, they were leading 21-7 when Ertz was in the game. Or at least, like, I think before he got hurt, there was something after that. But you can't say that completely, because that defense gave up a lot. We're talking about top defense in the league, and they gave up 36 points. So you already got a 21-point lead, and Kenny Pickett didn't play bad in this game. That's the thing that drives me nuts. Like, when I hear fans say that, I'm like, well, Kenny Pickett didn't play bad in this game. He played solid football. He threw a touchdown, I believe, in this game. He played good. The problem is the defense forgot how to play defense in the second half. And guess what happened? You saw Jaden Daniels and the crew dissected, and they did what they had to do to get the win. So, yes, and look, as a fan, you're supposed to say those things. I understand completely. But the truth is truth. Kenny Pickett didn't play bad in that game.
And when they beat him the first time, it was only by one possession. It was 26-18. Like, I got it pulled up on the other screen right now, and looking at that other game that you had, the second game, Hurts started, and the Commanders did only win by 3. But like you said, Kenny Pickett wasn't horrible. He did have a turnover. He threw an interception. He did have 10 incompletions, but he did have nearly 150 yards passing, and he didn't play for the entire game.
Yeah.
Saquon still ran for 150 yards in this game. He ran for 147 the game before that. So that's why, if you want to bet, like we were talking about earlier, bet he's going to run for 150 rushing yards in the game and 2 touchdowns, because he had nearly 30 carries in this game. And Jalen Hurts, before he got knocked out of this game, had 3 carries for 41 yards and did only have 1 completion out of 4 attempts, but got knocked out very early on in the contest.
Right.
So Kenny Pickett, besides that 1 turnover, this game wasn't absolutely horrible for them, because they only had, they had less turnovers than the Commanders. This was probably one of the last games that we saw where the Commanders would turn the ball over on multiple occasions before they went on that run to end the year, because the next time they would do multiple turnovers in a game was in the NFC Championship.
Right.
So in this game, in that second contest, they threw 2 interceptions and had 3 fumbles. And this was in that 36-33 loss.
Yeah.
So I can see where you're coming from a little bit there, Dante, because you're talking about all those turnovers and they only won by 3. Yet if Hurts was in there, you more than likely would have won. I'll kind of give you that a little bit.
Yeah,
but it wasn't because of Kenny Pickett that you lost the game.
Yeah.
I can't give all that to him.
Can't give it completely. Yes, they got a way better chance of Hurts in there to win the game, obviously. But it just, like I said, you still have the number 1 defense. And the way Washington was playing in that game, there was no reason Washington should have ever been in that game the way that game had started off. And they spotted them pretty much 2 touchdowns. They spotted them 2 touchdowns, and you still got the number 1 defense. After what we saw in the NFC Championship game, that should have never been close. So, but no, I see, like you said, Drew, I see the argument there a little bit, but to me, I'm like, nah, because Kenny played well in that game. He played well in that game.
He did. I gotta give him a little bit of credit where it's due, but a lot of people out there are still going to say that he was absolutely terrible. 6 says, clearly the Eagles did their homework and learned from their first encounter with the Commanders. It was especially their last encounter, where you have to capitalize on the turnovers. And in this game alone, they did, between their quarterback and their running back. with both of them having 6 touchdowns combined.
Yeah, I think they scored on every. I think they scored off of every turnover, if I'm not mistaken. If I remember clearly, they scored off of every touchdown. I mean, off of every turnover. So
Hurts had 4 touchdowns, 1 passing, 3 rushing, and Saquon had 3. So combined, they had 7 touchdowns. Holy
crazy.
That is wild. Ty says just need one more legit wide receiver to go along with Terry McLaurin, which I like that. But I still feel like you need another tight end, and you also need some more help on the offensive line to give JD a little bit more time back there in the pocket, because he was extending a lot of these plays with his legs and moving around in the RPO option. So if it wasn't for that, Sam Howell was like a Statue of Liberty the year before, and as much praise as I was giving him and promise for the future, he had the most amount of sacks in 2023.
Man, it was rough, man. Sam Howell was in trouble all last year, man. You know, it was bad. It was bad.
And, of course, Washington kept turning the ball over. Kenny Small Hands Pickett couldn't capitalize. So, yes, that goes along with what we were saying. So, yes, that's why I can concede to that one there, my man. Well, trade Dotson for Ertz. Well, Dotson, we already traded. We already traded to the Eagles.
Why they trade him back?
Yeah, no.
But I understand wanting Ertz back. I understand wanting Ertz back. If I was an Eagles fan, I would want Ertz back after the year he had. So yeah, go ahead. I understand completely.
Nah, he's having too much fun over there in Landover.
That's right.
Let him help bring up the next generation of tight ends. Let him draft a good one this year, if there is one out there that can fill that void. It makes sense realistically that they could keep doing. And of course, Sick and Mick are out there talking about staying in each other's lanes. I'm so irritated right now with Commanders fans saying the game was rigged. You have not heard me say that at all this week.
Oh, I don't think I've heard that much from at least I haven't heard that much from Commanders fans saying that.
From that
game. You know, maybe. Maybe that second one, maybe. But this last one, there was no rigging going on, man. That's just fumbles and capitalizing off of turnovers, and that's pretty much what won that game. And Saquon Barkley being a man child, but it's.
Yeah, I'm gonna start on that topic. Any game, it takes one moment to turn the tide or change the direction of the game, says Sick. You're absolutely correct with that, my man. And he also says the key word in that is capitalize at Drew Willingham. No Kenny Pickett was bad. Remember, we are 4-down team, 8-minute offense. Can't be a 4-down team and 8-minute with small hands.
They don't like Kenny Pickett at all, man. Hey, man, that man's an Eagles fan, man. He grew up an Eagles fan. Like, nope, don't like him.
If Dante could, he would absolutely do this to Kenny Pickett.
Delete!
Him right off the roster is what he would do, because if he was your starting quarterback and Jalen Hurts just pulled an Andrew Luck this offseason and abruptly retired, you would have a season full of this next year if he was your starting quarterback. You know it, and I know it.
Yeah, they're just gonna have to hand the ball off to Saquon 150 times a game. that's what that was gonna be like.
and now seeing that, it's not gonna be a total
surprise, motherfucker.
It's not because I think this, like Saquon, they got to get the championship now. It's their best opportunity, because usually when you have a full year of an offense on tape, which that's why you have rookies who have great years like CJ Stroud from this past year have somewhat of a sophomore slump. Even though the Texans made the playoffs, they were not the same team they were in 2023. The defense was not the same. Well, the defense was still really good. The offense was what was struggling. The defense was keeping them in the games. And I don't think that the Commanders are going to have as much of a slump like that in year 2. But my comparison to that is whether it's a rookie in their first year in the NFL, or a free agent, or somebody who was traded to another team who has success with their first year with that team. A lot of times, whether it's a rookie or a veteran in their second year with a new team that has success in year 1, there's enough tape from year 1 with that previous season where the teams now have a way that they can defend you. Yeah. Unless you are an innovative magician with your offense like Andy Reid and some others like there from the past, which old jolly old Saint Nick is not proven for that, Darrell. I think they're going to have some trouble next year. They have to get that championship now.
Yeah, they got to win it now.
With what the NFC East is building, of course, there's a dumpster fire over there in Dallas. We don't know how the Giants are going to bounce back with what they're going to do this year. It looks like the top two teams, yet again, could be Washington and Philly, but it could be in another order next year, depending on how the moves are made for this offseason.
Yeah.
So you don't want Kenny Pickett as your main quarterback over there, Dante.
Nope.
I'm feeling.
Look, I understand, Dante. I wouldn't want Kenny to start it there. Like, no, sir. No, sir.
Now, speaking of, molly-whopping in the game, we got to take a look at some of the highlights from it. We got some snapshots from this past week. And with that being said, let's take it on into the Burgundy Flex review and review the images from the past week.
Go to my neck, Burgundy Flex, who wants the smoke, we bringing it home, be my guest.
And yes, the Commanders were in the NFC Championship game. And we have some footage we got to look at between the two. It was old Jaden Daniels versus Jalen Hurts in this game. And throughout this season, Darrell, we have seen unity. And you yourself took this photo right here. Unfortunately, out of the snapshots that I have, I believe this is the only one that I have from your highlights, but it speaks volumes with this photo right here. When I see this, I see a united defense, a team that came together, that played outside of their overall talent for this playoff run. I mean, with what they did to Tampa Bay, and especially, even though they were beaten up, what they did to Detroit. What words come to you? They say pictures say 1,000 words. What's going through your mind when you see this photo right here, and especially with you being the one taking it?
All year long we've seen this team play, and a lot of people say out of their element. Like, a lot of people didn't see Washington winning 12 games. Heck, I think I had them going 8-9. And they, all year long, you saw the unity of this defense kind of grow. And after I want to say it was either week 3 or after the Cincinnati game, I felt like we really saw a turnaround in this defense. And they played way, way above what a lot of people thought they would play this year, with veterans like, Bobby Wagner and Luvu, and especially Dante Fowler Jr., who a lot of people didn't give the love he probably deserved this year, because Fowler went out there and he led the team in sacks, and he never got talked about, which I thought was kind of weird for a guy to lead the team in sacks. And I don't think he got the love that he deserved throughout the year, but he was phenomenal. And now, he'll be a free agent, so he'll be interested. They'll be interested to see if they bring him back for another round there. But what I saw all year is just unity from the defense, and they played with each other, and it was never where they had their games where it wasn't so good, and they had some games where they were like out of their mind, like when you go to Detroit and watch how they played against Detroit. And I still think that they're on the up and up. I mean, they're going to bring some of those pieces back. Some of them, they're going to be some brand new pieces in there next year. This defense has got a chance to be really good here in the upcoming years.
And I look forward to seeing how they evolve, because they do have some older talent on the defense, and with Sainer still, being a rookie, and they traded for Lattimore, and we're going to definitely get into him because he got a little physical in this past game.
Lattimore was acting up.
The
Lattimore was acting up.
Yes, you know exactly where I'm going with that one. Him and AJ Brown. Yes.
Don't do it, Marshawn. Don't do it, Marshawn.
Don't do it, but he did. But
he did.
With this one right here, you said it perfectly. Especially with the united front, and that's how you felt. Especially with those first 2 games in the playoffs, especially with how things ended for the regular season and the run they went on to get into the playoffs, but also to get the 6th seed with that final win in Week 18. So a lot of big things came from just the way the season ended. But, after that, you see in the first quarter and a half that, they're putting the pressure on Philly. Philly, the closest it got to, we were talking about earlier, is 14-12. With 7 minutes and 5 seconds left in the second quarter. That's why I said pretty much for the first quarter and a half, it was close. The defense was competitive with Philly. It was back and forth. Of course, Hurts was getting, his runs in, as well as Saquon. And Saquon scoring 2 touchdowns in the first quarter, one being on a 60-yard run and another with this 4-yard run right here. They were up 14-3. The Commanders could only get field goals in their first 2 scores. It was 14-6. But then Terry McLaurin was scoring a 36-yard pass from Jaden Daniels, who was poised under pressure right here. But, that 36-yard touchdown pass to McLaurin. They did have a failed 2-point conversion as they tried to tie the game up. This would be the closest they would get to getting a tie game or taking the lead. But I want to talk about this right here, right quick, Darrell. Looking at how poised he is. Look at that look on his face. And you think about quarterbacks of the past, like Eli Manning with this look on his face. And for those of you wondering what MSLOF stands for Eli Manning, stupid look on his face. All right? And that's number 1. All right? It looks like the Undertaker. Rest in peace. In honor of the Royal Rumble that kicks off here in a few hours that I know my man's going to be checking out here in a little bit. But looking at this. MSLOF 1. MSLOF 2. MSLOF 3. And MSLOF 4. I don't even want to caption that one. But looking at this. In comparison to the poised look here, what is your thoughts on Jaden Daniels and what you saw throughout 17 games in the regular season, all 20 games that you saw and attended with the photography that you did, and you look at moments like this in comparison to another quarterback that I just threw a little shade on? What are your thoughts?
The future Hall of Famer there. But I will say this. Jaden all year long showed a different confidence and poise that I've probably only seen in very few quarterbacks. And a lot of people, it's hard to compare him to, some people, a lot of people like to compare him to Lamar Jackson, but, and there's a lot of Lamar Jackson in him, but his poise and confidence there's a lot of Mahomes in that. Yes. And I don't throw that out lightly. I mean, you go back and watch the way he has commanded the offense under pressure. If you go back and watch how he handles himself in press conferences, if you go back and watch how he is with his teammates, if you go back and listen to every single thing that people had to say about Jaden Daniels, you'll never hear anybody get close to saying he was rattled or nervous or anything like that. The only, even in this championship game, if you go and look in the championship game, he played well. I mean, he did have a pick, but that pick was after they were down by like a couple of touchdowns, I believe, and he was just trying to make something happen, and some people could say, well, that pick may have been on Terry. Terry was trying to adjust, and he jumped a little too early. There's a lot that goes into that. But if you just watch the play of Jaden Daniels throughout this season, all I see was a calm, poise, and I see a calm, poise, collected leader, someone who's ready to take this franchise to the next level.
And he definitely is. I mean, I talk about the look, but if he came out there looking like this year, would you have that same kind of confidence in him? Or
I'd be a little bit worried.
A little different.
I'd be a little bit worried.
Getting the wins.
I'd be a little bit worried.
Even with the wins, especially like this. This looks like he participated in a 420 festival at halftime.
Yeah.
And then came back on the field.
I think he lost in this festival, man. Things look rough. But I will say, I mean, I said it earlier in the show, like, if you're a Commanders fan, you got to be happy on what you got coming up. Now, schedule next year going to be tough. Don't get me wrong. Schedule going to be tough. But when you got somebody like, JD5, whose confidence level is through the roof, and he doesn't flinch. He sees the moment. He goes out there and try to make something happen with it. And it's only going to get better. I mean, the weapons that he'll probably get this offseason, and the team will be, better. I told somebody that this Commanders team that you've seen this season will be the worst Commanders team that you see in the next, 5 to 10 years. And that's saying a lot for a team that went to the NFC Championship Game.
But I still don't think they reach the Super Bowl next year, Darrell.
No, I don't.
I don't.
I
don't think they even make it to the NFC Championship Game this year, and we haven't even seen the moves they're making yet.
Right.
I mean, this was a flash in the pan. They shouldn't have gotten this far this year, but they did. I mean, nobody saw them beating Detroit, but Detroit also had 18 players that have been on IR or the injured list throughout the season.
If I had to tell you, like, just based off of what I'm seeing now, I think they'll be probably the third best team in the conference next year, record wise. Maybe not. I still think Philly has an edge right now. That's going to be a monkey they're going to have to get off their back. And then with Detroit still being number one, Detroit's still going to have a lot of people coming back, and they're going to be healthier. So, and I'm pretty sure Revenge Tour is going to be strongly on their mind, especially after all the injuries and no Aiden Hutchinson and so on and so on. But personally, I would say they're probably the third best team, but they'll be in the mix for that with Tampa Bay, the Rams, the Packers. I think those teams will be in the mix. Green Bay's not where they need to be yet. They're on the rise, but they're not there yet. Tampa is missing a couple of pieces. They just lost their offensive coordinator to Duval.
Man, I feel bad for Jags fans.
I know, man, but you know what's funny? Every time we make fun of somebody like that, guess what ends up happening? They end up playing like they made fun of Campbell, and look at what happened. They made fun of Sirianni. Sirianni got I know I trashed Sirianni his press. I was like, yo, this is terrible, and they went out there and they won. So we got to get our jokes in now, because he may be laughing at us later, and that's fine. Baker said nothing but great things about him, all that good stuff. But anyway, he did say great things about him, and the team screamed their praises. So we'll see. But I think they're going to be at least the third best team at the minimum, the third best team, and they could be higher than that. They truly could be higher than that. This team is primed to still be, a really good team. Even like I said, even though this team right here will be I believe the worst team roster wise that you see for the next 5 to 10 years. Record wise, it may be the same, but they're going to get better and better each year. So about time they get to that new stadium. Yeah.
You and I were close with the prediction. You said 8-9. I said 9-8 this year. I felt like they could at least get to 9-8 because of the amount of moves they made. And similar things that I've been saying as far as how they even got to the 12 wins, I was saying of how they were going to get to the 9, but I thought they were going to just barely get to a winning record and be on the outskirts of a wild card spot.
Right.
They exceeded the expectations by getting in 3 more additional wins and then, of course, tripling their win total from last year, +8 differential on what they did from last year. And then, of course, you still add 2 more wins on top of that with the playoffs, and you go 2-1 with a positive record in the playoffs. I mean, there's nothing but positive things you can say for this season as a whole for this team. Even though, of course, you can break down and analyze things from the NFC Championship. The Eagles had the leg up because, of course, they faced this team twice. They were fueled because they were mad, got smacked in the mouth by getting Jalen Hurts knocked out with the concussion in the second game of the year. So they had something to prove. And the Commanders had literally used all their fuel up on the Detroit Lions to score the amount of points and to be able to contend and to force the turnovers. The defense played out of their mind against them, but unfortunately, those same turnovers that they forced from Detroit, they committed in the next game, and that's what cost them. We had a little fun with the look on his face thing, but let's get to something else that we were talking about earlier that still can be quite entertaining, but in a different light. A.J. Brown right here, Mikey Sainer still, what he did with the amount of yards that he put up in this game, he goes out there and gets 96 receiving yards and a touchdown on 6 catches. But between, the physicality right there with the rookie, he's getting physical with Lattimore right here too. And, between this clip right here, you got Luvu looking at him like, yo, bro, what are you doing? And then looking at it right there too, he still got the same look like, come on, bro. And then look at the helmets coming off. When you're right there on the sideline, I know these are not, works of your art right here with the pictures that you took, but you still saw the moment between the physicality from Brown to the Commanders. Besides the feeling of the rivalry here, was there any additional thoughts that were going through your mind when you're seeing moments like this transpire on the field? Because a fight broke out after this.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, because sometimes when you're down on the field, people don't realize how close to the action you are. And these some big boys. There's some big boys out there. So you got to protect yourself, one, especially if you're close by when it happens. And, it can get the tussles. I've seen a couple tussles this year. And when it gets out of hand, you just got to, like I said, you just got to be careful. And the blood kind of does boil a little bit. Now, there's some people that say this is A.J. Brown's fault, and some people say this is Lattimore's fault, but, they were chirping throughout this whole game, and I wasn't surprised that it happened. especially with, like you said, all the beef that was coming from that second game. This was one of those like matchups where you're playing that division team for the third time all year long. You hear all the bragging rights, or this person's I'm better than them and I'm better than this, and you hear that all year long. So it gets tough. It gets tough out there when you're trying to establish yourself as the dominant, and I think that's what we saw in this matchup, at least in between these two kind of going at it. But I will just say that it can be real intense when you're seeing it in person, and you got all these people cheering behind you, talking about, yeah, get him. So you got all that stuff going on. It just takes it to another level.
I mean, you've been in the middle of some scuffles, but also some great moments like this. Tell them about this photo right here. I had to bring this gem up in that story that I did for our advertisement. For the show
my God! So all right. This is me catching a pass from Russell Wilson. Now, don't look at it and be like, man, Darrell, you look too calm. So what happened was, I told somebody this is my first professional catch, and so what happened was Russell was throwing the ball out of bounds. The ball bounces off the side of the wall there and flips, and it comes right to me. Now, I've dropped a couple of footballs this year, as you well know. And this one I actually caught. And so the guy behind me with the phone that's grabbing for the ball, he says to me, please, man, give me the football. And I said, he said, please. And he's begging me. It was him. And to see the guy with the Steelers jersey, or the person with the Steelers jersey, there was another Commanders fan there. It was like, come on. Oh, no, actually, I take it back. It's the guy with the velour suit that's got his hands, black guy at the top. He's like, come on, man, hand me the ball, man. And I'm like, I turn around and say, I am not losing my job to give you the football. Okay. And so I said, you should have caught it yourself. That's what I said. And I was like, you should have caught it yourself. And the guy started laughing. He said, can I at least hold it and take the picture? I was like, nah, my guy. I appreciate it though. So then the referee came over and I gave it to him. But they did give me a hand clap for the catch. That I do appreciate. But no, he won't get in that football though. He won't get in that football.
To keep it?
No. I had to get the football back.
Oh, man.
I didn't get to keep it.
If they grabbed the chalk and wrote, your name on it, your initials, catch number 1, and let you keep it. But
yeah, look, what people don't understand is like NFL footballs are like really hard. Like I didn't realize how, like, you play with a football that you get and it's, most of the time it's a little deflated and, it just doesn't, there's certain footballs don't have that like sting, but these NFL footballs, they might as well be bricks because them suckers are really heavy. I was surprised. But it wasn't until that Dallas game that I realized how really hard those footballs were. So,
yeah. So I guess deflating it is an advantage.
Touche, sir. Touche.
Yeah. Well, we know
your boy TB12. I mean,
Thomas Edward Patrick Brady II. Yeah, I'd do it for him right there. But unlike TB12, he's not going there. But the Eagles are going to the Super Bowl as a result of the game that we just saw. Saquon Barkley, his first Super Bowl, even though he's a former Giant, you see Jalen Hurts here, of course, celebrating after the game as well. But what was it like seeing Saquon finally have that moment of championship victory heading to the Super Bowl?
So there's a big part of me that I've always been a big Saquon fan. Big Saquon fan. Since Penn State. So that year that he came out, I remember doing a mock draft. And people laughed at me. Cleveland had the first pick and the 4th pick. In all my mock drafts, I had Cleveland picking Saquon first and Josh Allen 4th. And I kept telling people, I said, look, if they do this and they got the right coaching, this is going to change their franchise forever.
Yep.
And now, when I go back and look at it, I said, look, we got the best running back you could have had the best running back in the league. And you could have had, top 2, top 3 quarterback in the league. If they'd just listened to me. Now I'm just some peon, so I didn't know. I wasn't expecting them to listen to me, but that's the mock draft I had. And every time I think about how well Allen and Saquon are doing, I'm like, man, just if Cleveland just would have listened to me, they would have had the best running back and the best quarterback in the league, and not have to worry about other stuff. They might have been okay, just a little bit.
Yeah, Saquon since Penn State has been an absolute stud when it comes to playing the game of football, and anybody out there would have loved to have him as a Derrick Henry situation. Like he would not have had too many people pass up on him like Derrick Henry did. People were more concerned about Derrick Henry and the age this past offseason. But, for Saquon, I feel like the Eagles were like the first call. And, of course, division rival, they're paying you more, and you get to play the Giants twice a year to remind them you just done messed up because all you had to do was match what he wanted, and he would have still been a Giant. And you still could have built this team around him, much younger and much more talented than Daniel Jones. That's another argument for another day. But here and now, he is the reason why the Eagles are in the Super Bowl, man. Like, the Eagles would not have gotten this far with the way they were playing without Saquon Barkley. They didn't have many moments this year of playing without him because he played in every game. But the games that they did lose, it's because Saquon was contained a little bit, and there wasn't many times this year that he was contained, especially against the Commanders, when the first two times he ran for 297 yards combined in both games, and in this game had another 118 yards. But before we move on to our next segment, I do at least want to say some positive things about the Commanders' offense minus the turnovers, okay? Jaden Daniels did have the interception, all right?
Yeah.
But threw nearly 50 passes, threw 48 passes, completed 29 of them, 255 yards, and had a touchdown, and still ran for 48 additional rushing yards. So combined, had over 300 total yards, and only 6 carries for those 48 yards, averaging 8 yards per carry, and a rushing touchdown. My concern here, moving forward, and I have said this all year throughout the losses and previews to the upcoming tough games, they cannot win games with their quarterback being the leading rusher.
Touche.
Lamar Jackson was proven this situation in Baltimore before they got Derrick Henry. And then when you didn't feed Henry the ball enough in the past,
they end up losing.
They end up losing, yes.
They end up losing.
Brian Robinson Jr., they need some help. I'm not against keeping Eckler and putting him back there for receiving situations, but I don't think you can trust Austin Eckler as the true secondary running back. Because 8 carries for 15 yards, averaging 1.9 yards per carry for Austin Eckler is absolutely terrible numbers. And he didn't even have a catch in this game against the Eagles, and he's mainly known as a receiving back. So I feel like that was a misstep on Cliff Kingsbury in the offensive play calling. And the fact that Brian Robinson Jr. had 11 carries for 36 yards, I think a lot of that has to do with the pressure that the Eagles defense was putting on the offensive line. So you make the adjustments with another tackle and guard, I believe, would essentially make a big difference to that O-line. And then another running back to help them out there. I really like Travion Henderson out of Ohio State. If the Commanders can find a way to get him,
bring him close to home.
Boy, too.
I said bring him close to home, right?
Yes.
Bring him close to home.
Bring him close to home. And I don't think he's going to be a highly touted running back in the top 10 to 15 picks.
Right.
It slide to you in with I think they had the 29th pick because they got all the way to the Final Four. So looking at that for what it is, he might fall to you at 29. And I feel like at that point, it's a hit or miss pick. I don't think he's going to be available in the second and third rounds if you let him try to slip to your picks that you have there.
Mm-hmm.
You need to make that adjustment. As a result of this game alone, you need help with running backs. And you need a young one to go along with Robinson that'll keep you there for a while as talented running back core.
I agree with you 100% on the, two things definitely. I think a big thing that hurt Washington is losing Sam Cosmi. People don't realize how important Sam Cosmi is this offensive line, and I hated to see. I was staring right at him when it happened. I was pretty much probably like 20 feet away when he tore the ACL. And I got a chance to talk to him last on Monday, and he had surgery the following day. So he hopefully should be back, hopefully before the season starts, maybe after a couple of games. But losing him was huge. There was times during the year when they didn't have Tyler Biadasz where it showed and it hurt him. So this offensive line has played well for the most part when they've been all together as a unit. Shout out to Trent Scott, who also had a solid year. They're decent there, but they can get better. So I agree with you there. But running back is going to have to be a huge step up. Like they're going to have to go and get a guy to go alongside Robinson, or maybe find somebody to be the new lead back. I don't hate Brian Robinson, but Brian Robinson also has dealt with injuries, and I think a lot of people forget that but a lot of people forget that this man got shot. Philly fans don't forget it, because I'll never forget the time a Philly fan, after Brian Robinson scored a touchdown, said they should have finished the job. That is a quote from a Philly. I'll never. That's like the things you don't forget. I'll never forget hearing somebody scream that. I turned around and said, "No, he ain't say that." Then he repeated it after I said that in my head. I'm like, "Oh yeah, he said it." But I think I agree with you. A running back is going to have to be a priority in the offseason, whether you draft or you get yourself a vet. Chris Rodriguez had some good moments this year, but I still think he was just further down on the totem pole there. McNichols had some good moments. Other than, I think he fumbled in that game as well, if I'm not mistaken. He did. He had a really good year up until that point. Like, so that's something that they definitely want to fix. So I agree with you 100% on that.
But he fumbled on a kick return. He was the one that fumbled on the kick return.
Yeah, he fumbled on a kick return.
McNichols was mainly utilized in special teams. And of course a little bit on offense, but he wasn't consistent. And Eckler, of course, was used in special team situations as well. But Chris Rodriguez, he hadn't played in a little bit, so I didn't know what was going on with that. I guess, like you said, he was lower on the totem pole.
Yeah.
But they definitely need to make a decision with that, whether it's in the draft or if they can get, a surprisingly decent free agent move. You won't get anything like Saquon or Derrick Henry.
No, you're not going to get that lucky.
You got to address the offensive line and the running game, because you cannot rely on Jaden Daniels as much as you did this year moving forward, because you're going to put him in a situation to get hurt potentially, even though he does run very, very smart. And except for when he had the bruised ribs before that Hail Mary game, which I was concerned about, as that happened literally right before that game. I was like, oh man, is Mariota going to be playing in this Hail Mary game? Well, it wasn't a Hail Mary game, in this game against the Bears. So I don't want to see Caleb Williams and Marcus Mariota, man. That still is a number 1 and number 2 overall pick selection.
True. Technically, because Mariota was number 2, so you wouldn't have been. You still would have got it. Just would have been a couple years apart. That's it.
Yes, and looking at the fact that the Commanders had 2 Heisman Trophy winners as their quarterbacks this year, and top picks in their respective drafts. Just a lot of cool moments that we had to talk about throughout the entirety of the 2024 season. And, with as a result of this NFC Championship game, Dante says for the Eagles, our Super Bowl window is wide open. Kellen Moore's pass game tucked this year, and that's the scary part. We can realistically get rid of Moore and upgrade. Remember, we stay in contention. I just don't think that Saquon, you're going to have him at this level, is what I pretty much meant with what I said earlier.
He gets older, yeah.
Yes, because, Derrick Henry's proven it, in his 30s that he can do pretty well, but, I just don't think, with how the inconsistencies with Jalen Hurts was at quarterback at certain points this year, you're going to be able to play like that and stay at this kind of a caliber of a team. And it's also 22 starters between both the offense and defensive side.
Yeah.
We haven't even included special teams yet. There's a lot of different factors that go into it besides those 2 stars that you have. So there's a lot to be concerned about.
Yeah, you don't want him to get beat up. And I think that's the other thing. You got to find a way to kind of preserve him too. He's a tough back, but you got to think about the wear and tear that was put on him this season. And even though he made it look effortless, he's still getting up there in age. We know the running back curse, which Derrick Henry has been breaking the rules of that. But, once running backs hit 30, it starts to get a little bit touchy. Now, I don't think he'll be 30, actually. I'm not 100% on that. But you still want to be able to have somebody else there, maybe get another running back to kind of protect them. That's going to be huge for them. And if you're Philly, you got to want to win it this year. You purposely took Barkley's 2,000-yard chance to break the record away. He may never get another chance at breaking that record. And you took that away because you said the Super Bowl was the biggest thing, which you got there. That's the first part. Now you got to go win it to make it say, yeah, I got 2,000 yards this season. I didn't get the record, but I got the ring. You got to have that. If you don't get the record and don't get the ring, that's going to be a little tough. I'm Saquon mentally. He may not say it out loud, but that's going to be tough because he wanted that record. It's a 40-year-old record. He wanted it.
There's a statement that somebody put out there earlier that I'm going to address when we get to the final drive that has to do with games maybe being persuaded in certain ways, but we'll talk about that at the end of the show when we get there.
Yeah.
Silent Night Visuals says, boys are not Philly dominated in all phases. And I like Daniels, but I think everyone is jumping the gun on him. Give it time to see. I like it. And we can laugh all day about Eli Manning having two of them.
2 rings, though. He got them 2 rings.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, give him something to smile about. Like,
hey, yeah, but you got to throw a little shade when you can, especially with that look, man.
That's a division rival thing. You got to like, you got to take that shot when you can. Yeah,
you're gonna find things to make fun of JD at, later on. Could be about him being a mama's boy. Who knows? I mean,
that could be that. Could be that.
But hey, if that's the worst you get, the biggest thing you got, then he's gonna be a star.
Yeah, you ain't never lie. Mama gonna make sure he focused. She ain't playing games with that thing.
No. But I got something fun. I got a response to that off air that was. All
right, cool.
I'll remember that later.
All right,
say that here.
Touche.
To be honest, this was the Commanders' year to win it with San Francisco bouncing back. Look at Detroit and Baltimore took a step back, and we might put the blueprint out against Daniels. So basically, with how the Eagles stopped them in the championship game, basically that's the blueprint that the other teams like Detroit and other ones in the NFC can utilize to beat the Commanders next year to contain them.
Yeah.
But they didn't have a running game. So if they have a running game to balance it out away from him, that's why I feel like it's going to change all that up.
Well, I don't think they necessarily stopped him. I mean, they contained him. They're more of a stop than they contained him. I think if you look at it, Washington, he didn't play bad in this game, but you can't overcome fumbles and then Philly scoring off of every fumble. He didn't create those fumbles. So and in that case,
55 points.
He didn't give up 55 points. So in that case, but I see what he's saying though. I see what Dante's saying there. But it's not completely all on him. And I really do think this kid's going to be really good. It may have a little bit of a bump next year because they do have a tougher schedule next year, but I don't think he's going to waver as much as maybe C.J. Stroud did this year.
And they scored as a result of turnovers, but they didn't score on the actual turnover. So it's not like the offense turned it over and you scored on a pick six or on a fumble from them. But of course, those turnovers did set them up, and JD only had one of those 4 turnovers. So looking at it for what it is. In Zach Ertz, he had the first 100-yard game all year, and I think the first 100-yard game he might have had since he left. No, he might have had one or a couple in Arizona.
Yeah.
But he looked really good in this game. This was the best game that he had all year. So looking at it for what it is, the 4 turnovers killed you, 3 fumbles and a turnover, but only one of them is a result of what JD did. I can't say that you got the blueprint solely on him, but there's still a lot of upgrades you need to make this offseason. A.J. Brown did his job. Mad, lose his expletive again. He lost his expletive again. Yes.
A.J. Brown a trip.
Going back to where they got a little physical with Lattimore right here, and the helmets are flying. But it was good to see Lattimore be productive in this playoff run. Because I had some doubts because when he got traded, it took a month or so for him to finally start and play in the game. And that was against the Saints when he finally came off the injury list for the hamstring. So to actually see positive play out of him was definitely great. Backstory, the Saints had made up a rivalry since they beat us in the 2018 playoffs. And party like they won the Super Bowl, we beat the hell out of them the next year. And ever since, it's been a chippy.
Just a little bit chippy.
Just a little bit. And he says, remember, we stopped them early this season when the Saints was on fire with the crazy Russian stats.
Yeah, I remember that game.
Yeah, they did. Yep. I know exactly what you're talking about now. I hate the fans when they go that far and they should.
Oh, yeah, man. It was crazy work. I've heard some crazy things in Philly. I've heard some crazy things. I've been to 4 games. It's crazy stuff.
Like against the Packers. The guy, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The guy against the Packers, they said all that mean stuff to the girl. And, losing his job and all sorts of stuff like that. He definitely took it way too far.
Yeah, he was out of control.
I think Washington's success was more they were new and they shocked everyone next year. The bullseye will be on them next year, and you did see the opponents. Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
What was that?
It's going to be tough. They do have a tough schedule next year.
And you're right. He's 27. He'll be 28.
Oh, yeah.
Year, actually.
Oh, yeah. So he's
still a couple years.
His birthday's on the Super Bowl. Yeah, him and Cooper DeJean birthday on the Super Bowl. So
Super Bowl Sunday.
it might as well look. If you want a birthday present, go win your Super Bowl on your birthday. That's you can't beat that.
It could be very bad though if you lose on your birthday.
Yeah, you'll be thinking about it on your birthday all the time.
You will never forget. Yes, never.
So you gotta go get that dub.
Do you think that Daniels and Hurts, do the NFC quarterbacks get the respect like the AFC quarterbacks because they made it sound like Lamar and Josh are automatically winning the Super Bowl, like we don't have a chance?
So the NFC quarterbacks right now, and this is across the league. A lot of people, obviously, the AFC quarterbacks they got some studs over there: Burrow, Allen, Jackson. Jackson may win the MVP again this year, and then you got Mahomes. So I mean, talent wise, the AFC's got it. I mean, they've got a couple of guys that are still like trying to figure themselves out. That if they were on the NFC side, they'd be top 5. I'm talking about like Trevor Lawrence and Herbert. Those guys would be, if they were in the NFC, we're talking about top 3, top 5, QB. So right now, AC does have the advantage. But the NFC, they're growing. It may take some time, but they're growing.
They are growing, and they definitely prove that AFC's got something coming for them. This is going to be a tougher matchup for the Chiefs in this Super Bowl than it was 2 years ago when they faced the Eagles. I don't think it's going to come down to a James Bradbury pass interference call. It's going to be a lot more impactful in different ways than that. But we could definitely get into that part a little bit later. We do have 2 segments left where we got to talk about the MVPs from this past week and the final drive. But I do want to take one quick commercial break. I step to the restroom. We'll be back in like 2 minutes.
Gotta go pee-pee.
And we'll round this thing on out. There it is. Now drain it on out.
Yeah, I gotta go to the bathroom.
Commanders, where my soldiers? Right side. Commanders, where my soldiers? Left side.
Whether it's news, the largest egg producer finds bird flu in chickens at a Texas plant, weather, devastating tornadoes rip through the heart of the United States, inspiration, a breast cancer survivor completed the journey of chemotherapy, and now begins a future one of matrimony or sports. Michael Jordan is shown on a photo with Diddy. LeBron James has a video extolling the virtues of a Diddy party. This has been yet another beating a dead horse presentation. We got you covered. BS3 Network, in association with Comey Media Incorporated, proudly present The Morning Shift with Cole Johnson. Live every weekday at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central.
Ladies and gentlemen, hey, look, hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willie bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. Hey, $ D Willy 87. Go ahead, hit him up on the Cash App, and go ahead and give him some Willie bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen, stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. How about some Willie bucks?
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Drew Willingham.
In this case, yeah, you put the blame on Kyle Shanahan for apparently not preparing the team enough for the overtime rules, supposedly.
Cole Johnson.
Peyton was considered the winner, and he was the darling of all darlings for Darrell.
With a special appearance by Tyrone Alizé McDummy.
Ain't nobody calling me. Text. Delete.
Join these 2 football enthusiasts as they give you Total Football Talk. Live every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central on the Sertoba Media and the Comey Media YouTube channels.
Commanders, where my soldiers? Right side. Commanders, where my soldiers? Left side.
Welcome back to the Commanders Gridiron Report, episode 44. We are live on well, I almost said January, but it's February. So
It's close.
2025, man. This month went by fast, Darrell. No joke. It really did. Like,
it's not playing
it
games.
feels like it was my birthday, and that was like almost a month ago, man.
Yeah, I
We're
mean,
getting old.
man. My birthday was what, a month and a half. Mine was it flies. I told somebody yesterday. I was like, y'all know February tomorrow, right? They was like, what? I was like, yeah, man, February is tomorrow. So I mean, we're already 1 month down with 11 to go. And 2025 is here, ready to run.
It's gonna be another great one, man. It's already been starting off great, you know, just like this team we've been talking about today, you know, making that playoff run. You know, it looks like there's going to be some great things for the future, just like with this episode that we have been producing from start to now. We don't have much left, so we had to give them a little bit of that commercial break entertainment. I had to make sure they saw the Willy Bucks. Okay,
it's important. It's important.
It is. You know, regardless if you can or cannot donate, the fact that you just watch the commercial,
it's just enough. Hey, man, y'all know what to do.
That freestyle of that promo with you and Willy Bucks was just perfect. Just perfect. Just on cue. Because I remember talking about that episode with Kyle Nash, Trios Edition Inter-Out Sports Debate, which I will be bringing back here in the next month. I've been planning it, but get football. This show, gotta make sure we wrap some things up with this because I can't do this and that. You know how in depth that show is.
Oh, yeah.
And, but it's a fun one. That's my baby. 120 episodes, but
20 in here, baby.
A lot of episodes, man. That's why that championship belt right there that you held means so much because all of those shows have so many episodes now. And D Willy in the Evening's about to come back soon with some more shenanigans. So the year's kicking off great as we wrap up things for the Commanders season because I'll talk about it more once we get to the closing, but a little bit of a spoiler alert. Today's episode will be the last one for at least a few weeks as we get closer to the draft because the season's over. And I wanted to make sure I ended it with a bang with someone great who definitely was a part of the season. And you had a big part of the media success as far as Bowie TV. So great work with you. Another great season by you and Candy and Karita over there with Baltimore Ravens coverage as well. But, man, just to have this season as we wind things up for this and to have the moments that we did in this picture, again, is going to be one of my favorites of all time. You know, me in the crowd, for you to give me that, that's a great present. And we had that from the 2024 season as we had this game to look back of that. It's like, it felt like the Super Bowl. Now that you and I are on, camera talking about this too, this is another thing that I haven't had a chance to talk about. Really, I talked about it, but I was like by myself, and I talked about it with Cole and Total Football Talk the following Monday. Because I was exhausted when I got up the next Monday. Because we do that show Monday morning.
Right.
The game was Sunday.
Yep.
And it was a 4:00 game. So it was a later game. So we're getting back later in the evening. I was worn out, but the adrenaline was still high to where I think I only had like 90 minutes of sleep that night going into that next morning's show with him. When that game ended, me and my guy Paul Kelly, who is in this picture with me, you know, to my right with the one up, like the bloodline right there, you know, putting the one up in respect to he's acknowledging the tribal chief. Okay? And I got the belt. You got the picture here. When that Hail Mary happened and this game ended, everybody's jumping up and down. I turned and looked at him, and all we could do is just embrace, hug, and jump up and down. We're jumping up and down. We're hugging, and I'm going, yeah! And the belt's on my shoulder and everything, and we're yelling. And I remember as soon as the game ended, when I came down to get the picture with you, and of course, to get you to take a picture with the belt here, I remember just giving you this big old hug, man. And that it felt like it was the Super Bowl, like that we witnessed a Super Bowl like moment. Out of the Super Bowl moments that you have had, because you literally have gone to the Super Bowl, is this a crazy feeling or crazy thought for me, or far-fetched to even think that could be similar to what a Super Bowl moment kind of was when you and I are meeting up down there at the end of the game and just embracing on this game of how it went down with the Hail Mary?
Look, man, I think it's probably as close as you could get, especially, look, you guys, Commanders fans, have been through tough times. And to have as many good moments that they had this year, which is well deserved. I've seen people suffer, and they didn't deserve it. they didn't deserve it. I didn't deserve it. They didn't ask for it. But it was one of the best moments I've ever seen. I remember being on the sideline and thinking, okay, well, this one's over. He's probably gonna get a Hail Mary, at least give a shot, But I didn't think they were gonna win. I wish I was a little bit further to the end zone, because by that time I was getting prepared to run on the field and capture the moment of them, hugging and checking each other out and fist bumping and all that stuff. That's what I was looking forward to doing. And next thing you know, I see this ball floating in the air. I see it tip, and and I just hear the fans go crazy. And I said, he caught that football. So at that time, I see the players running on the field. I start running on the field. And I wish I should have sent you the video. You could have seen it. And it's just like, it's like chaos. And it's one of those moments that I'll never forget, because I never had been a part of a Hail Mary game. That was the first one, or something like a game where in that fashion. It was definitely something I'll never forget. So, it's not wrong for you to put it up there with Super Bowl moments, sir. Not at all. Not at all.
And for us to be there, and the seats, it just, everything worked out, because I was able to get there as quick as I did down there. Because the one thing that people, and I want to shed some light on this, so that way people who are trying to do something similar to what we did on that day, where we get up and we set up like a picture like we did. It's tough with the amount of time that you have after the game, because you still have to get off the field to go do the interviews,
right?
You go get extra content. So for you to be able to take that time, you got to be able to sit close, like to the field, like to where, like if I would have been like on the upper deck, there'd be
it probably wouldn't happen.
Get down there on time.
It probably wouldn't happen.
All the people to dap it up with you, get the picture, the big hug that we had, man. I just remember the embrace, because that was huge. It felt like winning the fathering Super Bowl. It was great. But again, thank you so much for that moment.
No problem, brother.
With the picture, even if later on, I tell you I'm in a section that's higher up, and you're able to get the picture, and I can't get up with you. You know how much I appreciate it.
Don't always, brother.
That moment man, it was kind of emotional, and thinking about everything, in the past couple of years, stroke and everything, and having a moment like that to be able to go out and do stuff. And I'm not 100% to where I was before all that. Still some things physically are not 100%, but the one thing I am very grateful and blessed, as you could say, is that my ability to talk is still very that and
the gift of gab, baby, the gift of gab.
This is still beating strong, but of course, certain things get affected when you experience, situations like that. But looking back on it now, for us to be able to have it was kind of like a redemption-like moment. The team, and I felt like a redemption moment, like within myself, because it took a lot of work to get to that point to be able to attend the game.
Right.
Let alone everything else that came with, as a result from it. So that's why, having you here today for us to not only talk about the NFC Championship game, that clip you said you were talking about, you can always send it to me, and with what you just talked about, I can.
I'm gonna have to send it. I'm gonna have to send it to you. I still have it in there.
You sort of described it very well, to where there's, how I can make some editing magic happen.
You magic happen.
So, if you want to send it on over, you got the email address. But that's a little side note right there, a little sidebar for the content magic. But to have these moments, like the players, those who are a part of something great like this for the team, they realize it's not only great for them, it's for the fans too. And you heard them talk about this a lot in the interviews that you were a part of, where they were excited just to see the rejuvenation in the fan base. They have their hope restored for a great future. The ones out there, the closet fans that gave up on the team, that are trying to weasel their way back in, those are the ones I'm disappointed in.
They ran away.
They
ran away.
You can't squirm on back. They're like, nah, I don't want to be on back. But now they're trying to use the whole ownership thing as an excuse to come back. But it's been great to see the shift between the previous era and this. And you and I worked together, during that era, as far as what we saw there. There's a couple questions that I have for you that I had when Lake Lewis Jr. was on a couple weeks ago, which shout out to you for helping be bridging the gap for that to happen. But in your eyes, and very similar to his, I wanted to ask you this before we get to our Soldiers of the Week. Besides, like, the ownership physically being different within the organization, how does it feel as far as energy and everything behind the scenes, from up in the booth to where you got to put all your gear and set up before you even come down to the field?
Mm-hmm.
Has there been any changes or upgrades where they made upgrades and things throughout the stadium? Can you tell us anything as far as hospitality-wise? What have they done that's been an improvement in comparison to previous ownership?
Oh, they've done a lot. They have a thing now where it used to be like an emergency area, but they changed it and made it into like a fan experience area, right beside the players' locker room. So like you can go and watch the game in the stadium, and like you're right beside the locker room. So when the players are coming out to the locker room, you can dap them up, and it's like as right before they walk through the tunnel to go out on the field. So that is a nice little setup too, man. They got a nice little food thing in there and everything, and I think they give like certain things to the fans that are there. That's really nice. At the beginning of the season, they took us on a tour. A lot of the suites that they used to have, or they used to have some suites that were used for like team. I think it was maybe used for like team, like not team members, but people that work for the team, and they turn those all into suites. They call it Suite a Club 1932. It's really nice, decent food up there. So if you're a fan and you want to go and have that a great experience at the game and get a good view of the game, it's a really nice thing. So, and they got some really good chefs up there that did some really good food there. So that was one big thing. They painted the walls, they changed a little bit of the atmosphere there. But the biggest thing I've seen is just the energy from the people that work with the franchise, the people that that the players. Everything's completely different. Last year they were just trying to get it together. They were getting there, but this year it was a complete difference. You can definitely tell that the culture has changed, and it's still a work in progress, but it's on the right path. And if you're a fan, you need to be happy, because all the stuff that you suffered through, you shouldn't have to suffer through it. For the upcoming future. They've got a good team in place. Magic Johnson being there, who I can luckily say I got a chance to run into a couple times this year, and he just seems like the best guy. I got a video of him and Terry hugging after the Tampa Bay game, and they just embraced. I mean, and the energy was just, they're so happy. The owners are so happy. Josh Harris is a Commander or Redskin fan, whatever you want to put it. He is a Washington fan. You got somebody who cares about the franchise, who used to walk to those Darrell games with his family at RFK. So you know that he cares. So you're in the right place, Commanders fans. You got good stuff coming your way. I can feel it. I can feel it.
Man, it's been a long
time.
road. But the streak of not making it to the NFC Championship is over as a result of the 2024 season. That, and it set me up for this before we get to our next segment, because the Commanders have now eliminated that. Now it's been this year that was the first time they made it. With this other team, the streak continues.
Still them boys.
For those of you out there who are fans of this team right here.
Ain't nobody calling me, texting me, paging me, asking me, are you still involved? Delete!
You guys want to hear a fucking story?
Story is this: Cowboys won't see the Super Bowl for the 29th consecutive season. You can
Acknowledge me.
For this graphic right here, based on the past 29 years, is this a total
Surprise, motherfucker.
This has been yet another Beating a Dead Horse presentation.
Oh, yeah.
Cowboys fans gotta hate you right now, man.
Man.
They gotta hate you right
man,
now.
I'm not the one out there taking the... I mean, we did just take one last week, but still,
it's okay. But you still, 14 wins total this season. You're fine.
14. You got to the NFC Championship, and it's been 29 years for you guys. If the Cowboys make it, which they won't this upcoming year, to the NFC Championship, it'll be the first time in 30 years. So they could honestly, I could see with the way they're going, it could be a longer streak than 33 years. It could be another 5-6 years before we see the Cowboys in the NFC Championship game, or even further, because of the way Jerry Jones is running this team, Darrell. Yeah. As long as he has his hands on the general managing moves for this team, we could see potentially 35, 36 years by the time he's not operating it himself anymore.
Yeah.
Or the Jones family in general. If the Jones family keeps on running, it could be 50 years till we see the Super Bowl.
Here's the thing. He said himself, like, I don't think he cares about winning. And obviously at this point you have to feel that way. He said, I think it was maybe like a month or so ago, where he pretty much said, like, hey, they would ask him about his son and taking over the team at some point or getting a GM. And he was like, look, man, I brought this so I can create it. I created this job myself. And so he only cares about making the money. He doesn't care about winning. He's got his 3 rings. Why? Okay, yeah, for the fan base, as long as he knows that fan base is going to stay loyal, which, it doesn't look like they're going to be unloyal no time soon. He ain't changing anything. He's happy. He's making money hand over fist. They're the most profitable team in the country in all of professional sports. Nah, he's good. Why would he care? He's got 3 rings. We need championships. I got 3 of them. Like, he doesn't care. So for Cowboy fans, I feel bad for you, because it's with that attitude, it doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon. So sorry.
That's unfortunate, man.
It is
really
unfortunate.
Is.
They talk about Dan Snyder, but this is rough. That's rough.
To give hopefully the fans of them a little bit more hope, or at least the people watching this show, for us to at least talk about something that is a little more positive. We don't want to keep beating down the Cowboys fans as much as fun as it is that we actually have the opportunity to do so after all the beatings that we have taken over the years. We have to give a little bit of praise to the previous game's Soldiers of the Week.
Where's my soldiers? Right side. Commanders. Where's my soldiers? Left side.
Here with the Soldiers of the Week, we have to acknowledge the standouts from the NFC Championship Game. And, have to be true to how the game transpired and give the Soldiers of the Week awards to members of the Philadelphia Eagles. And I'm going to start it off with A.J. Brown, who had 6 receptions for 96 yards and a receiving touchdown. You look at the work between the running back and quarterback, with Saquon Barkley having 15 carries for 118 rushing yards with 3 rushing touchdowns. And your quarterback having a really good pass completion to attempts conversion for 20 of 28 attempts. You have 246 passing yards by him with no turnovers, 1 passing touchdown. He did only have 16 rushing yards on 10 carries, but he amassed 3 rushing touchdowns on 10 carries, literally scoring touchdowns on 30% of his carries out there, which is absolutely great numbers. Darrell, how do you feel about these players being the picks for this past game, Soldiers of the Week?
It's good selection. I mean, you can't really go wrong with this. The way Saquon Barkley started that game off, I mean, the guy's special. So, y'all know how I feel about Saquon. I've already expressed, how I feel about Saquon. So absolutely deserved it. Jalen Hurts, he definitely deserves it, especially him having the soldier on after getting that knee injury last week. And he played pretty good. He played pretty well. And a lot of people, including myself, thought going into this game, if you're Washington, if you want to win, you got to neutralize Jalen Hurts and make Saquon Barkley beat you. Well, they weren't able to do either, and it showed, unfortunately. And then A.J. Brown's A.J. Brown. I mean, there was a lot of controversy at the beginning of the season and them complaining about him not getting the ball. But guess what? He got the ball in this game when it mattered the most, and now they're going to the Super Bowl.
They're the ones that, if you watch the movie Hardball from 2001, Keanu Reeves and the team, they're going to the ship. What? They're going to the ship. You got to go back and watch the movie. You know exactly.
I can't even watch that movie. I get sad, man. I get sad when I watch it. Yeah, man. I can't watch it.
That's
dude, I love the movie. Can't watch it. Love the movie. Can't watch it. I get sad.
I mean, but it toughens us up, man.
It does, man. It's a good movie.
at least we know that didn't happen to G Baby, the character, in real life. Though.
Right.
That didn't happen.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what you're talking about, though. But you know that redemption story here. It's going to happen for the Commanders, but for this Eagles team, they're trying to have their redemption this year in the Super Bowl against the team that beat them 2 years ago. We'll see how that all transpires. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and take this into our final segment, which is the final drive. Acknowledge the comments from the fans, but also put a bow on this 2024 regular season.
We bet on ourselves, so what you expect? A diehard fan never live with regret. Yes, sir.
Here at the final drive, we're going to give our closing thoughts on the Commanders heading into the offseason. And I told Darrell that I was going to be clicking some buttons, showing him some things from, especially from this past game that not the past game, but the game that he and I were at together. Because you got to find out what it's like to tailgate D Willy style.
People, I am D Willy, and this is how you motherfathering tailgate. With Red Zone on a phone from a video on another phone. You can have it right here in the parking lot. If you have a phone and another phone, recording a phone with video on it. On another video. This message is brought to you by D Willy, where Sartoga Media, where it is the struggle to be real, to be awesome.
I kind of jacked up the Sartoga Media slogan, but I was having a good time.
I said by that time you probably was having a pretty good time, so I understand completely, sir.
I did. That was the first time. That was the first time since before the stroke that I really had a few cold ones and had a good time. And between the tailgate and I didn't get too many in the field because of how much expensive they were.
This is like $25 for a beer up there, man. It's insane.
It was stupid. I got one for the first half, right when I was walking down there for the first quarter. I had it, and that pretty much lasted the first half. And the same thing with the second, because they're kind of big ones, but they're at the same time they're expensive. And I got one for the second half. So I was feeling pretty good, but I was coherent, but still. Got to be able to give them the entertainment out there. There's people out there with cornhole or whatever, and we have some content like this right here.
Here we go, Ryan.
It's cooler right here. Speaks America. It's cooler right here. Speaks America. In the little grill. I'll tell you, let's show them what's inside. Our other camera guy.
Got some Mexican chicken going on.
Got the seats set up. Paul Kelly already got a video of us from Red Zone. That was the video we just watched. The Sartoga hat. Of course, the old logo. Yeah, you gotta have a good time. A cooler from the 50s, 1950s. There was ice in that cooler for 5 days before it fully melted. Man, that cooler I inherited that was my grandpa's. It's literally from 1958 or something. It's still absolutely crushing. But yeah, we're getting it done out there. Paul Kelly about to do what he does best. Cook food. Maybe not what he does best, but part of the things that he does best. Master Chef. I want to make sure I bleep that part out, though. Marinated some chicken. What is that in there again? Jalapeno juice and carrots?
Jalapenos and carrots and all the juice that goes with it.
Master Chef. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Let's get one in the bag. That's all the stuff he had it marinated in.
Throw some meat church fajita on it.
That's what I'm talking about. Hell's Kitchen doesn't even know what's up with this one. Yeah. That's how we did the grilling, having a good time out there. We were there to see the number 1 and number 2 overall pick matchup, and it wasn't until after this game, but still because it had to do with this season, that within the episode of Total Football Talk, we were talking about that quarterback on the other side of the game. Yeah, fingernail man, that's what you are. Guess what? Bowling balls cover fingernail man's fingernail. But you know what you can't cover up? Which is served by big old fat old stinker.
You got me with fingernail, man. Oh my gosh. For those that don't know, yes, Caleb Williams, he likes to paint. I don't know what the heck he wants on his nails.
Makes it more aerodynamic.
Hey, I'm not gonna lie to you. I had the same reaction Cole had. I was like, fingernail. That's what I was thinking in my mind. Like, fingernail, man. That's great. I had the same exact reaction Cole had. I'm like, fingernail, man. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. That's great.
You like that? You like that?
I do. I do. Hate Chicago.
Yes.
Yeah, you already know how I feel about them.
Absolutely. Division rivals with the Packers. And, man, the Packers had a great year this year, too. They were a sleeper team that I was telling people they need to be worried about. But, of course, just like other teams, get beat up in certain areas. It's going to affect you. But, I had a lot of high hopes. I was hoping they were going to be the upset team, and win that first round and upset the Eagles. But it just didn't work out in their favor. You need a little bit more help over there, too. But you've been doing some great things with your podcast over there for the Packers. I was loving it, too, man. So, just like you have, with all the work you do with the Commanders, of course, you have a lot of knowledge within this, but you have a lot of knowledge within the Packers, too. We're going to see JD versus Jordan Love at some point in the future.
Whole Lambeau, baby.
Yeah.
I can't wait next year. I can't wait. Oh, I'm going to Lambeau. I'm sorry. I had a moment. Going to Lambeau.
You deserve it, man. You get to see your team that's on the come up against a team that you're covering that's actually fun to cover, which, before we get any further into the show, between years in the past, I know we talked about this off air, but for the show, how does it feel, not just the ownership and the culture we talked about earlier, but to cover a team? It went from, you're covering a 4-13 team,
which was rough.
Definitely feeling like a dumpster pelican and is not doing what they should, and they don't know what the assignment is, pretty much. All right.
Right.
This year they got a quarterback along with others who know what the assignment is, and they definitely exceeded the expectations of many. What was it like to cover a team that was basically on the bottom and it completely done a 180 as far as the culture in the locker room, but product on the field as well?
Dude, it was like night and day, because last year there was times I'm like, okay, this team might be all right. This is how I felt initially. They were 4-4. I think they beat Atlanta. They had lost to Buffalo. They got beat bad by Buffalo. And then they lost a game to the Giants that they shouldn't have. It was like small stuff happened. And then I'm like, okay, they're still 4-4 midway part of the season. They had Seattle, they had Dallas, and I think they had to play. It was somebody else they had to play in that time frame. And I'm like, okay, if they want to win more games, I knew that it was certain games. They just decided not to win no more games. And it was hard to watch. Like every week was like, all right, here we go. Like that's like you go to cover, go to do a job. But it was just like, man, you also want to see a team that you cover do well, because it's good for, your brand, one, but it's also good for your morale, because you want to be able to have something positive to talk about. And so watching that last year was like, oh, but this year it's like, as it started off, I'm like, okay, they're doing all right. And then, they beat up on Cleveland. I tell people the Cleveland game for me was the one, because I thought Cleveland was going to be a better team than they were this year. And so the Cleveland game, I was like, wow, they may be better than I thought. And obviously Cleveland ended up being a dumpster fire, and they got the second pick this year. And then, the Baltimore game, they hung in. I'm like, okay, they hung in. They were beating Pittsburgh. They should have probably won that game. They were beating the Eagles in that first one. Probably should have won that game, but, faded a little late. And, JD5 was hurt. But every game I saw a team get more confident and it get better. That last 5 games before the Eagles game, this past game, that was a different team. I'm like, yo, that's why a lot of people were like, hey, the Commanders can win this thing on this. Like, I think that's why people believed it. 5-game winning streak. They weren't turning the ball over. They're playing good football. And, JD5 was taking care of the football. Everybody was taking care of the football. So it's just a difference. And it was a lot of fun. I'm excited about next year, one way or the other, because it's like they're gonna have some tougher games next year, but we're gonna get a chance to see if they are who everybody thinks they're going to be for the next couple of years. Like this next year is going to be a huge test. If they're playing the AFC West, that means you got Mahomes and Herbert, and then you gotta face a tough Denver team that's starting to play really well with Bo Nix. Then you got the NFC North, who's got despite them all losing in their first playoff game, you had a 15-win team, a 14-win team, and an 11-win team. So it's like it's going to be tough. Then they got to play Chicago again at home again next year. So we get another matchup of them two going at each other. I don't understand why that keeps happening that way, but it does. So it's if you're, like I said earlier in the show, if you're a fan, you're in a good place. This team has the potential to be great, and I'm here for it. I'm here for it as long as they allow me to be here for it. So I'm loving it.
I just want to see this Bears fan again who interrupted my interview right there at the end of this game that we were talking about earlier.
Toss that ball up in the air.
Washington's still not a playoff team.
And this motherfather just interrupted my interview. But right here, we're going to keep going because we're going to have a great time. Shout out to Dude Man who came on over. But straight up, 12-7 going into the last of the fourth quarter. Jaden Daniels, after the Bears scored a touchdown, went for a 2-point conversion. They were down 15-12. All they needed.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Commanders not a playoff team.
They're not a playoff team. Hey, look at what happened. They were a playoff team. Chicago wasn't.
Yeah.
Wrong.
How about losing
the playoffs?
How about losing 10 straight games after this loss, Chicago, man?
Burn. Absolutely burn. Oh, yeah. It's time for breaking news. When it comes to the Chicago Bears, they definitely needed to
Stop it. Get some help.
This season was absolutely terrible. So when it comes to that fan right there,
would you please shut the hell up?
Because we went from that to us winning the wild card round against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that led to this prior to Detroit.
Any final thoughts you have before we let the tribe go?
Yes. Detroit Lions and your fans, you need to go back a little over a decade and watch an episode of The Breakfast Club when Birdman was on it. And just like he said, you need to put a little speck on my name. You need to put a little speck on the name of the Commanders because you are not showing the speck. I'm already seeing some things from a man Hawk that I'm very disappointed about on Instagram story. And I'm going to clip this out and I'm going to show it to you when I come into work today. Because you need to put a little speck on the name of the Commanders. They're going to come in there. They might not be biting off your kneecaps like you bite off others, but they're going to be hungry too. And they're going to run around, and the game is going to be a little closer than what you think. You may win, even though I'm going to sit here and tell you that you're not. It's over. The Commanders are going to win, and they're going to upset you, and you're going to get beat by him, JD.
The promo.
The promo.
You're going to get beat.
The only thing I didn't have
was the belt.
This. I didn't have the belt.
He was promo ready. You're going to get beat. And then when I come back, I was like, yeah, you tell the truth.
That's why the wrestling realm, who are a big part of why this is even made, they had it made.
Yeah, shout out to that great.
Stand for the Commanders. It stands for Willy Wood, which is what they call me on the wrestling realm when I attend. That's the my promos when I go into that. They call me Willy Wood because you got Hollywood, Brian H. Waters, and then I show up and we go promo for promo. I am Willy Wood.
Willy Wood.
Yes.
Willy Wood needs Willy Bucks, everybody. Come on now.
But this season was an absolute meaningful one. And, you know, to be able to attend that game, the Bears game, in the season that we had as a result, I'm just glad that JD wasn't hurt, or at least hurt beyond the ability to not be able to play and to do what he did in that Hail Mary play. It would have sucked to attend a big old
Let me talk to you.
But we didn't. We attended one great game because that game was great. It was another boost for JD and this team moving forward for the rest of the season to become a playoff team. And it exposed the Bears to what they were definitely known under the Eberflus tenure. And for that, you can
acknowledge me.
That team is absolutely...
That's terrible.
I'm sorry if you can't.
You can't handle the truth.
Come on now, Bears fans out there. Seth freaking Rollins. Yes, I am talking to you. You are not winning the Royal Rumble tonight. We'll take this into quick wrestling part for maybe a short later out of this. But, you know, we talked about it off the air before we get on out of here. One thing I like to talk about, something different than football. You have the Royal Rumble tonight. Who's your favorite to win? Is it or CM Punk?
I'm leaning towards Punk. So Punk's my choice. That's just, like I said, this is just, you know, being a wrestling fan for a long time, just based off of what I'm seeing. I'm going to say Punk wins it. Now, who I want to win it, I got two people. Well, one, I think I would be cool to see J.KUL win it. But I'm going to pick somebody that I know nobody will be like, Darrell, are you serious? But I'm sorry. I need redemption for him. And that's Shinsuke Nakamura. Give my guy the title run. I'm just throwing it in there.
U.S. champ.
Give. I know he's not going to win it, but that's who I'm secretly rooting for. If he's in the Rumble. That's my dude.
I'd like to see something kind of like what Brock Lesnar did, but Gunther do it, where he enters and he enters in number 1 and defends the world championship in the Rumble.
That'd be sweet.
It's an opportunity for somebody to win the championship potentially as a result of it, and then you have an opportunity to script away for John Cena or Roman Reigns or The Rock or whoever to challenge Cody in a different way, because the Royal Rumble was used to win. See, that could be a crazy twist tonight too. I don't think it's going to happen, but that would just be something that would be cool to see. But I like your picks though. I like J.KUL. It would be wild to see John Cena win the Royal Rumble, because that would be, besides the Money in the Bank, the realistic opportunity he could get right now at the World Championship because of his losing streak. And it's been like, what, 2,500 days?
They say he hasn't won in like 6 years or something. It's some crazy number. Like, I didn't realize he hadn't played.
But he hasn't been in a Royal Rumble in like 2,500 days. Like, that's the other crazy part.
That sounds wrong. That sounds wrong. That sounds wrong.
I hope he's ready to rock and roll tonight, but we'll definitely see that in a few hours. Those of you after our show ends, we're running over a little bit on time, but because we announced earlier this is going to be the last one for a while, Corey, forgive me. You have this time every Saturday. Give my man just a few minutes, because we got a rare situation with us being on Saturday for one, because I had to work last night. That's why I was like, bro, I can't do the episode yesterday, and it hit you up last minute like that and be like trying to get it done in a day. Had to have a little bit of a breathing room so we could
just a little
get
bit
all this great. We've had a great discussion today, man. I greatly appreciate you taking the time
Always,
to come
brother.
here, be here on the platform with me, be able to reminisce with the belt one more time in the pictures. Yeah, Big Red, big
red,
burgundy and gold. But shout out to brother Hugh Scott and Brandon Guy of the Wrestling Realm, the championship culture show they have where they talk about championships every Tuesday night. Tuesdays and Wednesdays between their content. We got together. I hooked them up with some tickets during WrestleMania weekend last year, and this was born. So
yeah,
every single show that I do is on this belt, my man.
She purdy.
So we shared it. We shared a lot during this season. It was a great year for the Washington Commanders and another disappointing year for this team.
This has been yet another Beating a Dead Horse presentation.
Definitely look forward to seeing what comes about from that team and many other moves that they can make going forward. But we do have a few more comments we can acknowledge before we get on out of here. Looks like the real Benjamin here says, yo, and hail to the formerly known as the REDSKINS. I do want to say one thing to you before we get on out of here and ask and you get your opinion, because there has been a bill or something that was passed recently where they want to remove the Redskins name from the Virginia. I can't remember exactly what it was. and I meant to do a little bit more of a check. Have you
Mhm.
heard anything about the removal of the name or the possibility of the name not even making a comeback? Like, there's been some rumors about the logo coming back to the team,
Right.
but they have a different name that comes about as a
Right.
result. Like whether it's the Washington Chippewas with the logo or something to honor an actual tribe name. I know it's probably a long shot that we get the Redskins name back with Washington, but do you see a situation where the logo comes back, considering they're starting to truly honor the team's history here?
Well, according to Josh Harris at the beginning of the season, we had a press conference and he said that the name's not coming back. So if they change the name, it won't be Redskins. Now, just throwing it out there. So he said that. I mean, like, and look, that could change. He could be like, you know what? Dan Snyder said it. I will never get rid of the name, and then he changed it. So according to what he said so far, and I think we got a press conference with him on Monday with Josh Harris. What he said so far is not coming back. Now, what I did hear the other day, if this is true, I think this is sweet. They're going to make adjustments to the uniform, and I think they're going to try to tailor it more to where it looked like back in the day, which is something I'm hoping that they kind of do. Now, what I did hear they're going to definitely do is that I heard that they were going to bring the stripe back. So the stripe that the like keep the W, but the stripe. But that, like I said, there's a lot of changes they're going to. So I think they're going to make the uniform as close to the old schooled way. So I think that's something that fans are going to really like. I'm not a big fan of the Commanders uniforms now. I like the black ones.
Yeah,
the
I like
red,
this one.
the white ones grew on me. And it took a while for them to grow on me. The red ones, I don't know. It just they don't feel right to me. But the white ones kind of like are decent. The black ones are really nice. So yeah, I do expect those things. That they're going to make some adjustments to the uniforms. I don't see them changing the name right now. And if they do change it, I don't think it happens until they get the new stadium. And so I think it'll be a while. And here's the thing. People are starting to semi fall in love with the Commanders. You know, to get this far, you know, and it has been a long time. So there's a legit Commanders fan base. But I do think at some point they may change it. But they'll definitely look forward to like seeing what the new jerseys, you know, or new uniform scheme will look like. That I'm excited about.
I mean, I'm staying loyal to this team, man. I still don't like the Commanders.
Nobody likes.
I did like this jersey, and I was trying to get the JD one, but it was sold out when I got it on Fanatics. But I was able to get the Terry McLaurin one, and then get it in time, like a week before that Hail Mary game I got it on purpose because one, I liked this jersey, but two, they were wearing that jersey
that game.
They announced they were wearing it that week and week 13. So I was I definitely got to go for one because they're wearing the jersey, but two, it was the Hail Mary game, not the 1 and 2 overall pick. So that was the main reason. And the Monday night game against the Bengals is what sold it for me.
Yeah, well, they got a special meaning to you. That jersey's always going to have a special meaning to you now, no matter what. You know, the team could be terrible, not saying they are, but the team could be terrible for the next 10 years. You'll always remember what jersey you were wearing when that Hail Mary happened. That's going to be a lifetime memory. So that's the good thing about it. You won't go wrong there.
It was definitely one great game, man. I can't say it enough. It'll be one of the last. If I were to ever forget stuff out here, it would be one of the last things because it is definitely out of all the things you've done out there, the Super Bowls and stuff. I think that's going to be something that you remember. It was the Hail Maryland or what is the name of what it's called now. It's got a special page on. It's got a special section on Wikipedia now. Like you Google it, like that's what it's called. It's got its own story and everything. It's like a landmark of a situation. Man, it's a historical part of football. JD was a part of like a handful of moments like that this year. Very special season. Definitely deserves to get the Rookie of the Year. You know, when do we find out when that's actually the vote comes in for that? Like I know they voted for it several weeks ago, but when does it come?
The honors is next Thursday. So you'll know all the winners next Thursday. So I mean, we know who's getting those awards. Well, the Coach of the Year one is up in the air, but you know, Jaden's winning that. I mean, Quinn deserves it though. I know I've heard other names and Sean Payton and you know, McConnell from Minnesota, and I've heard those names, but they don't make sense.
Dan Campbell, I mean, deserves it more than
Dan Campbell's had a great year, but you don't go 4-13 turn a franchise around and get them this close to the championship game. That alone, and even before the playoffs, I know the award gets put out even before the playoffs. If they did it at the end of the season, he still was my choice. I don't think you can go any other way.
No, it was definitely a great year for them, and +8 win differential, triple in the wins from last year. You got to give it to them, and Cliff Kingsbury was definitely a big part of the success because of what they did with the offense, but defensively, what DQ did with players that were not having success with other teams like they did this year with the Commanders. You look at Luvu, Wagner, basically had a resurgence from where he was after his tenure with the Seahawks and then going to the Rams. And then you look at others like rookies like Sainristil and, bringing in Lattimore. There were pieces that made a difference when it came to the playoffs. When I had question marks around Lattimore because, one, he was injured when he first got traded. It was out for the first month that he was there, played against the Saints, played the next week, then was gone for the next week or two. And that was right before they made the run into the playoffs. But in the playoffs, they stayed healthy. Didn't punt the ball at all in the first game. Punted their first punt in the playoffs in the second game in the divisional round against the Lions. But still in a game against the Eagles, they only punted the ball one time. So they only punted the ball twice in the entirety of the playoffs this year. There's a lot of big improvements. There was a lot of anxiety where all the times they went for it on fourth down. It made me feel like he was Dan Campbell Jr., with all these times that he went for it on fourth down. But his succession rate was pretty well. So overall, it paid off, and it became part of the identity of this team and how they were winning these games. So very big on them, but time possession was actually huge for this Commanders team for what they were able to do with Jaden Daniels controlling the offense. But I'm telling you, brother, he needs help. He needs help big time. We said it a lot throughout this episode, and we'll say it throughout the offseason. He needs help with the running game. So we'll talk more throughout the NFL draft and how things will go throughout this offseason with the moves they make. And fingers crossed that your team with the Packers and with this Commanders team, they continue to make great improvements and to where we see one great throwdown, when we play each other this season.
I'm good with that.
But, I definitely hope you have a great time at the Super Bowl. You got this upcoming week to get some great moments, and we'll see how things transpire within that game. But what is your pick? Do you think the NFC East wins this Super Bowl and gets redemption for that Bradbury PI?
No. As much as I would like to see anybody but the Chiefs win, I'm going with Kansas City. I picked Kansas City to win the Super Bowl at the beginning of the year. My rule is until somebody can prove they can beat them, that's what I went with. I actually had them and the Rams in the Super Bowl. Rams almost made me look like something, surprisingly, but I got the Chiefs. I think it still will be a close game. Because that's just how the Chiefs have played this year. Feel like every single game has been close. So I do expect this one to be close. I couldn't give you a number, but I expect a close game. But I expect Patrick Mahomes to once again do something that's never been done and become the first quarterback to win 3 straight Super Bowls and first team to ever win 3 straight Super Bowls.
29 to win 3 in a row and win 4 out of 5.
Yep, he's got 10.
5 out of 10s.
If he stays healthy, he's got 10 more years in the league. What does that say?
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy.
He could play as long as Brady till he was 45 if he truly wanted to.
If he wanted to.
It just depends on what he wants to do and what he accomplishes between now and the next 10 years.
Right.
Kelsey, I think, could potentially retire after this year if they win. Whether they win or lose. But, unless they truly want to try to go for 4, if they make some type of announcement at the end of the game. But at this point, I'm not even going to be thinking about that. You still got to get to the third one in a row first. It's still... nobody would. It's inconceivable at this point, based on what the history of the NFL has shown us. We saw a team, the last team we saw to go to like 4 in a row, or 3 or 4 in a row, was the Bills in the 90s, and they lost all 4. So no team has been set up, to go this way because they didn't get to the championship game and win until this past year, with the Chiefs doing it this year. So it's wild. We're seeing some great historical moments within the game of football. There's also some discussion out there that I know that people were talking about in the comments that there was some type of discussion about the game where you just covered being rigged, which I didn't really pay any attention to that or hear much about that. But what about this other one? Do you think the AFC There's a little bit of help with the refs in the pocket of the Chiefs. Do you think that could be a reason why they're going to win this game?
That's what a lot of people like to say. And it doesn't look good at times because in that Bills game, when Josh Allen got that first down and they said it wasn't, those are the moments you'd be like, everybody thought he had it. The commentators, the fans thought they had it too until they said, no, you didn't. That's the only moment that I was like, oh boy. But we'll see. We'll see. But like if you are a conspiracy theorist and you look at it all year long, all they talked about is this three-peat. Can they get the three-peat? Can they get the three-peat? And if it's based off of that, then yes, I wouldn't be surprised. If you're basing it off of that, then don't be surprised. So all year long, three-peat, never been done, three-peat. They did the same thing with the Buccaneers the year that nobody never won a Super Bowl at home. And what did they do? They win the Super Bowl at home. Then the next year, the Rams do the exact same thing and win the Super Bowl at home. Never happened up until that point.
I just think that it's gonna be a shootout of some sort. That's the only way the Chiefs can win, unless they have an answer for containing Saquon, because they're gonna be putting up a bunch of points.
Yeah,
at least 28, 35 points, somewhere in that range. They're not gonna put up 50, 55 like they did against the Commanders. It was all the turnovers. You take away the turnovers, that's 4 scores. It's down in like the 30s at that point, low 30s of a score. So they're gonna score between 28, 33 maybe points, somewhere around in there, and the Chiefs need to answer that and score at least 5 touchdowns in this game or have several field goal conversions and control the clock, because time of possession is going to be key. That's the only way that you can really beat the Eagles, and that's how they lost the 3 games that they lost this year, was because the other team was better at managing the clock, and the Chiefs can definitely do that. So I'm with you on the Chiefs. I think they definitely have a good chance to win, and we'll see history. Beyond that, we'll talk more about that when that comes, but you got a lot to look forward to here in the near future. The Royal Rumble tonight's big.
Sir.
We got, I guess, the Pro Bowl games to get excited about for tomorrow, where we'll see JD and others messing around over there in the Pro Bowl games. Whoopee. But we got a fight tonight as well, some other things in sports happening, and then we've got, of course, big Super Bowl next week. Thanks again for stopping by here today, my man. I look forward to getting up here with you in the near future. Have another opportunity with getting up with big Burgundy and gold, the big old belt at some point down the road. But shout out to all of you out there in the chat. Got to give you this before we get on.
What's that?
What's that?
Appreciate all of you that were able to show up and drop in the comments throughout the show. I've only got one more thing left to bring you, and that is one badass outro. From my man Darrell Owens over to my side here, I am Drew Willingham. Everyone, as always, please stay safe out here in these streets.
Commanders, where my soldiers, right side. Commanders, where my soldiers, left side. Commanders, where my soldiers, watch the middle. Commanders, where my soldiers, yeah. We step, where my soldiers, right side. Commanders, where my soldiers, left side. We step, where my soldiers, watch the middle. Commanders, where my soldiers,
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Ooh, yeah, brother. It's Wrestling Sunday out here. Saturday! It's time to watch the Royal Rumble! 2 hours of time on this show. We now watch 30-person take down the other. Promo time. Darrell Owen. Wrestling time has come.
Dong. Dong.
Got him!
Oh man, yeah, it's gonna be